Lovely morning children. Myself Sarita Chaudhary, TGT science teacher from St. Joseph Public School Town. Yesterday's video we started chapter number 5 of science, which is separation of substances, and we were discussing certain methods which are used for separation of different components from a mixture. We started with the first part, which is the separation of solid from other solids. If there is a mixture which has all the solid components, so how those solid components are separated from each other? There are several methods used for that. The first one was the hand picking, second is the threshing, third is the winnowing, and we have discussed all these three methods. So there are two more methods which are used to separate the solid components from a mixture, and they are sieving and magnetic separation that we are going to study in our today's video. Let's start our today's video with the sieving. What the sieving is? Sieving is a method which is used to separate the two types of solid components having difference in their size. The one component should be bigger enough and the second one should be small in size. So they can be separated by using a sieve plate, एक छलनी को, एक sieve plate को, which has minute pores in it, जिसमें छोटे छोटे holes बने हुए होते हैं, उसके ऊपर से जब हम किसी मिक्सचर को डाल रहे हैं, so the bigger particles they remain over the sieve plate and the fine particles they come down, वो नीचे collect हो जाएंगे, separate हो जाएंगे. There are several methods where we use the sieving method. The first one basically we use at our home, that is while preparing the dough before cooking chapatis. When dough is prepared, so what your mother does, she generally use a sieve plate, so that in the wheat flour there are some particles, there are some broken particles of wheat, कुछ chaff particles होते हैं, right? They should be separated from the fine particles of flour. जो आटे के बहुत fine particles हैं, उससे वो चीजें separate होनी चाहिए, because they cannot be consumed directly. इतने बड़े बड़े particles को हम कैसे consume करेंगे? So for that we use a sieve plate at home, and when the flour is being poured over that sieve plate, जो बड़े particles होंगे, broken particles of the wheat grains or the chaff particles, they are big enough in size, so they remain above the sieve plate, and the fine flour particles they come down, they are being collected at the bottom, उनको नीचे हम collect कर लेते हैं. The another method you must have observed in a construction site. In construction site, there are the big size sieve plates are used, and they are placed in the slanting position. उनको थोड़ा slanting position, थोड़ा टेढ़ा position में रखते हैं, and they are generally used to separate the stones and pebbles from the fine sand particles. सैंड पार्टिकल्स में से बड़े बड़े जो स्टोन्स होते हैं, पेबल्स होते हैं, उनको सेपरेट करने के लिए उस मेथड को वहां पे वो लोग यूज करते हैं. सो व्हेन ऑल द मिक्सचर इज बीइंग पोर्ड ओवर दोज स्लैंटिंग sieve plates, what happens that the fine soil particles they come down and the big stones and pebbles they remain over the sieve plate. So the sieving method is also useful to separate the solid from a liquid. While preparing tea, what is being done? Before pouring the prepared tea in a cup or container, what we do, what we generally have practiced at our home, we always use a strainer. हम एक strainer को use करते हैं, छलनी को use करते हैं, and what happens that tea leaves, जिनका जितना भी जूस था, जो भी उनमें एक्सट्रैक्ट था, वो तो सारा आ चुका है ऑलरेडी टी के अंदर. टी को कलर मिल चुका है, उसका राइट टेस्ट मिल चुका है, फ्लेवर आ चुका है. नाउ दोज टी लीव्स, यूज्ड टी लीव्स आर ऑफ no use of us. So generally they are strained by using a strainer, so that the used tea leaves they remain above the strainer and over the strainer, and the liquid tea that comes down, that gets collected in the cup of tea, वो उसके अंदर collect हो जाता है. So this is about the sieving method. बात करते हैं the next method which is called as magnetic separation. Word से ही अपने आप समझ में आ रहा है. What the magnetic separation is, children? It is a method which is used to separate the magnetic materials from the non-magnetic materials. Now you must be thinking, what are the magnetic materials and non-magnetic materials? Magnetic materials are those materials, children, which get attracted towards the magnet. वो मटेरियल जो मैग्नेट की तरफ अट्रैक्ट होंगे, दे आर कॉल्ड एज द मैग्नेटिक मटेरियल. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, iron, steel, they generally get attracted towards the magnet, right? And non-magnetic materials are those materials which do not get attracted towards the magnet. For example, wood, rubber, they do not get attracted towards the magnet. So when we have a heap, कोई हमारे पास बहुत सारा mixture हो which has some fine magnetic material particles and non-magnetic material particles, उनका हमारे पास mixture है, and when we rotate the magnet over that mixture, उस mixture के ऊपर जब हम किसी magnet को rotate करेंगे, what happens? Magnetic materials they get cling to the surface of the magnet. वो magnet की surface के ऊपर attract हो जाते हैं. And to demonstrate the magnetic separation technique, here I am having a bar magnet. This is called a bar magnet because it is shaped in the form of a bar. इसकी जो shape है वो bar जैसी होती है. So it is called as a bar magnet. So this bar magnet, it has two poles. दो इसके ends होते हैं. And these two ends are south pole and north pole, and they are indicated over here. S denotes the south pole, where the N over here denotes the north pole. If I have some magnetic materials, I am having two magnetic material plates over here and one oil pin, right? So I am having these stuffs in my hand, and when I rotate this magnet over this stuff, what happens? These substances get cling to the surface of magnet. So अगर यहाँ पे कोई non magnetic material होता तो that would remain over here, and magnetic stuff कहाँ पे आ जाता? Magnet के ऊपर आ जाता. So this method can be used to separate the magnetic materials from the non magnetic materials. This is all about the separation of solids from the other solids. Let's talk about the another category, which is separation of solids from the liquid. अगर कोई लिक्विड हमारे पास है और उसके अंदर कोई सॉलिड सब्सटेंस प्रेजेंट है, सो हाउ दो सॉलिड्स कैन बी सेपरेटेड फ्रॉम दैट लिक्विड, उसको कैसे सेपरेट करेंगे? फर्दर देयर कैन बी टू टाइप्स ऑफ सॉलिड्स, हम ऑलरेडी बात कर चुके हैं. फर्स्ट वन, द सॉलिड्स व्हिच कैन डिसॉल्व इन द वाटर आर कॉल्ड एज soluble materials, and the second solids which cannot dissolve in the water are called as insoluble solids materials, right? हम बात कर रहे हैं separating insoluble solids from the liquids. पहले बात करते हैं कि what the methods can be used to separate the insoluble solids from the liquid. कैसे separate करेंगे? And for that we have four general methods over here. These are sedimentation, decantation, filtration and loading. Let's study them one by one, and starting with the sedimentation. To understand the concept of sedimentation, again we are having a small demonstration over here, and it shows that in this glass tumbler, right, I poured water and in that I poured 1 spoon of soil. मैंने इसके अंदर 1 spoon of soil जो है वो mix कर दी थी before again starting this video, today's video. So what happened? All the soil particles, they were heavy enough, and these solid particles, soil particles, they are insoluble in water. They cannot get dissolved in the water. वो water में dissolve नहीं हो सकते. So what these solid particles did? These solid particles they remain scattered at the bottom of the glass. वो glass के बिल्कुल bottom पे जाके collect हो गए. These solid particles which collect at the bottom, जो नीचे settle हो जाते हैं, these particles are called as sediments. इनको हम क्या टर्म यूज करेंगे? sediments. So this process where the solid insoluble particles they get settled in the container of liquid, the process is called sedimentation. This sedimentation process is never complete. This process is always followed by second method, which is called as decantation. What is decantation? Now in this glass tumbler I am having two general layers. The first is the layer of the clear water, and the second is the layer of the soil particles, which are sediments, which are settled at the bottom of the glass tumbler. So to separate these two liquids and these solid particles, what I can do, I can take one more glass tumbler and can just simply tilt it. मैं थोड़ा tilt अगर कर दूं तो what happens? all the water जो ऊपर pure water था that comes slowly in the second glass tumbler. So in the first glass tumbler what we are having the solid soil particles, and in the second one we have comparatively clear water which has some light weighted insoluble impurities. इसमें अभी भी कुछ ऐसे इम्प्योरिटीज हैं जो लाइट वेटेड हैं और जो डिजोल्व नहीं हो रही, जो नीचे बॉटम पे कलेक्ट भी नहीं हो रही, राइट. सो दिस मेथड ऑफ ट्रांसफरिंग द अपर लेयर ऑफ क्लियर वाटर इन द अनदर ग्लास बाय टिल्टिंग इट इज कॉल्ड एज डिकेंटेशन. इस मेथड को क्या कहा है? डिकेंटेशन मेथड कहा. चिल्ड्रन, हियर कम्स द थर्ड मेथड व्हिच इज कॉल्ड एज फिल्ट्रेशन. After sedimentation and decantation, the third steps come, that is the filtration. What the filtration is? Children, for the filtration process, we generally use a filter paper, and I am having a piece of filter paper here to demonstrate you. This is not an ordinary paper. This is called a filter paper, as this paper has some minute fine pores in its surface. इसकी सरफेस के अंदर बहुत छोटे छोटे से minute pores, holes present रहते हैं, and this paper is called as the filter paper. What this filter paper does? This filter paper is used to separate very fine particles, solid impurities from the liquid. And how it is being done? Let's see. What I have done, I have settled one filter paper in this funnel, and in this I am pouring some muddy water. Over here I am having some muddy water which I am pouring over it, right. So what we can see that drop by drop water is coming down through this funnel. You can see that, right? And this water which is coming down is very pure. That water which I poured over this funnel, that was the muddy water, has a lot of soil particles in it, but the water which is coming down, it looks pure, and you can see comparatively the water which is being collected in this glass also. What actually happens? This is what the filter paper does, and here I can show you this filter paper also. When I remove this filter paper from that funnel, what we can see, the soil particles are present over its surface, because the filter paper, it has very minute pores, and through those minute pores clear water gets filtered, and impurities, solid impurities, they remain above the filter paper, right. So this method is called as the filtration. The impurities which remain above the filter paper, over the filter paper, they are called as residue. उन्हें हम क्या कहेंगे? Residue. And the clear water which comes down after the filtration, जो नीचे clear water collect हुआ था, that is called as filtrate. Okay, and this is all about the filtration method. Let's talk about the another method used to separate the solids from the liquids, that is the loading. What a loading is? You all must have seen in the rainy season the atmosphere, the sky, it looks little bit clear. हमें थोड़ा सा clear दिखाई देता है. Actually what happens? All the dust particles present in the atmosphere, or the carbon particles which are emitted in the form of smoke from the vehicles or factories, these all particles, they remain suspended in the atmosphere. But whenever there is a rainfall, what happens? The rain particles, they get attached or stick to these impurities, make them heavy. इसे impurities क्या हो जाएंगी? Heavy हो जाती हैं, and being heavier, they come down along with the water, and sky looks clear to us. So this method is called as loading, and this method is used where there are the light weighted impurities present in a liquid. Some materials are being added in that mixture so that those light impurities can become heavier and they can get settled in the container. The best example of this loading, which we also use at a home, use of alum or fitkari. Sometimes the water supply at a home, the water which comes from tap, that is a little bit impure. कई बार ऐसा होता है कि water थोड़ा सा impure condition के अंदर आ रहा है, तो उसके लिए क्या करते हैं? अगर एक glass tumbler के अंदर we are having the impure water, right? And if we add the small piece of alum or fitkari in that, what happens? Those alum or fitkari particles, they dissolve in the water and get attached to the light weighted impurities. इससे लाइट वेटेड इम्प्योरिटीज क्या हो जाएंगे? दे विल बिकम हैवी एंड आफ्टर बिकम हैवी, बीइंग हैवियर दे सेटल इन दी कंटेनर, वो नीचे आके कलेक्ट हो जाते हैं. सो लोडिंग प्रोसेस इज ऑल्सो यूज इन द प्यूरिफिकेशन ऑफ वाटर. जो बड़े बड़े वाटर टैंक्स होते हैं वहां पे भी वाटर को प्यूरिफाई करने के लिए एलम और फिटकरी इज बीइंग यूज. In our next video, students, we will discuss about the separating soluble solid from its solution. Till then, thanks for watching.